Stanley Livingston, Chip from My Three Sons. And
this is Barry Livingston, and
you're listening to TV
Confidential.
Ed Robertson, welcome to this week's edition of TV Confidential, radio talk show about television that will play part 2 of a conversation that began last week with Rhonda Shear. Rhonda Shear, the legendary host of Up All Night. Rhonda's bringing back Up All Night as a series of monthly specials that begins Saturday, October 25th on the Kings of Horror YouTube channel. We'll talk some more about that. We'll also ask Rhonda about some of her other movie and TV roles, including her early start in improv and her long association with Chuck Barris. Part 2 of our conversation with Rhonda Shear in our second hour. We hope you stay tuned for that. Also coming up in our second hour, we will welcome Paul Myers. Paul's the author of a brand new cradle-to-grave biography of John Candy. John Candy, the legendary and much-loved comedian and film actor whose life was tragically cut short when he died of a heart attack in April 1994 at the age of 43. John Candy would have turned 75 August 31st, 2025. We'll welcome Paul Myers in our second hour. We hope you stay tuned for that as well. In the meantime, coming up later on this hour, we will welcome back our friend Joseph Doherty. Joseph Doherty, the Emmy Award-winning writer, producer, who's also written several books, including Rod Serling at 100 and Comfort and Joy. Joe's going to lead a special roundtable conversation in which we take a look at local horror movie TV hosts, a staple of television on many local stations throughout the 60s and 70s, but a form of television that, sad to say, pretty much no longer exists. We'll talk about that and more when Joseph Doherty joins us later on in this hour. We hope you stay tuned for that as well. In the meantime, Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen are with us for another edition of This Week in TV History. Tony's segment, as always, brought to us by our friends at Story Salon, Southern California's longest-running, regularly performing live storytelling ensemble. StorySalon.com, Facebook.com/Story Salon. You can enjoy Tony's standalone podcast, This Week in TV History, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find audio. This particular edition of This Week in TV History originally aired in October 2015. Tony?
September 29th, 1960. My Three Sons first aired.
My Three Sons, one of the first shows to successfully switch networks.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes.
The first 5 years were on ABC. Now the first 5 years were the black and white years,
yes,
that with Bill Frawley as Uncle Bub.
No, he was grandpa. He was their grandpa.
He was Bub. His name was
Bub.
He was Bub.
He was the maternal grandfather.
That's right. Okay. That's right. William Demarest was the uncle.
Yes, he was Bub's brother.
But it ran on ABC from 60 to 65, I believe, and it was Bill Frawley, and the three sons were Tim Considine, Don Grady, and Stanley Livingston. And it was around the time that William Frawley was removed from the show because
of illness,
yeah. And there was his drinking interfered. There was cause and effect. His as I understand, his drinking affected his ability to perform, but he was failing. His health was also failing.
The insurance company could no longer cover him.
That's right. So that's why he was removed from the show. But it was around that time ABC canceled the show. CBS picked it up, and that's when they went to color, and it became a staple of Saturday night for about 5 or 6 years. And that's when Barry Livingston, Tim Considine was married in the first color episode.
Yes.
And he left the show and was never heard from again. And then Barry Livingston, who had been appearing in the last season as one of
Chip's friends,
was written into the show, and Steve Douglas, Fred MacMurray's character, adopted Ernie, and that's how they became My Three Sons.
That's how they had to justify the show.
Yeah.
No, when
when
I first became aware of this show, I mean, it was obviously on CBS. I didn't know they'd been on ABC. I did know there were black and white episodes. I did know about William Frawley.
Well, for many years, the William Frawley shows were not in syndication.
Well, that was the thing. I had only seen, because I remember, towards the end when Beverly Garland was a part of the show.
Yeah.
And the dynamic shifted quite.
And Doty, yeah.
And Doty. And because I would have been the age of Doty. And I remember hearing some people slightly older than I was at the time. Some of my mom's friends that were younger than her, but older than I was, and one guy was a big fan of William Frawley, and he would always talk about Bill Frawley on My Three Sons, and I'm going, what? That's William Denrist, and he said no, and they were explaining to me that before Uncle Charlie there was this character. I had never seen it until Nick at Night during their. Remember, everything was in black and white.
Yeah,
and then they would have those first episodes.
Yeah, and there was a time when this was done with other long-running shows that began in black and white but finished in color. For many years, distributors would not air the black and white shows because this is around the time that color television was becoming more and more in vogue, and so the thinking was people would not want to watch a black and white show on a color television set, even though they were watching color shows on a black and white television set. But the thinking was black and white would hurt a show's syndicated value. But when we had cable channels and you just need to fill content, and
they would put them together.
They would put them together.
See, I think Bewitched, Gilligan, and I Dream of Jeannie got a pass because you couldn't really. Especially Gilligan, you couldn't just eliminate.
Yeah, but with Jeannie, they didn't for many years. They did not show the black and white show. They would just start from year 2 and to the end of year 5, and they still. And as it happened, without the first years, they still had. In Jeannie's case, they still had 100 and something episodes, which is enough for a syndication package. But Bewitched, they didn't show the first 2 years for a lot of reasons, for a number of years.
So so all these, because those actually, they have like an origin episode with the pilot, and the characters do progress. I mean, especially Bewitched, when you see they get married in the first episode, and things do progress, and to take them to a point when they get in color, they are already established one way, and even to a lesser extent, I Dream of Jeannie. I mean, Tony Nelson's a captain, and in the black and white episode,
in the black and white episodes, he's a captain, but by the end of the black and white episodes, he's a major.
Yeah, and I did see, finally, I had seen a lot of the black and white episodes recently as part of a I Dream of Jeannie marathon hosted by Barbara Eden, and I finally saw the one where they get promoted, which was very unceremonious. It's just Dr. Bellows saying,
they get
it's time to get rid of those railroad tracks.
And then they go to Reno.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. It's like Dr. Bellows. I know they mentioned that Major Healy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was an Army colonel that officially gave the clusters to Roger, but you see Dr. Bellows show up and say it's time to get rid of the railroad tracks. These are yours now, Major Nelson, and it's just a nice thank you. It was a nice moment between the two characters, a very sincere moment, but there wasn't a lot of pomp and circumstance. And then I think shortly thereafter, it's the end of that season, and they go into color, and that's how everybody remembers it.
But Barry Livingston, who we mentioned as Ernie, he's gone on very much a working actor.
A lot of voiceover.
A lot of voiceover.
I ran into him in a voiceover workshop one night. I did not recognize him, but I heard his name called, and I was like, "Wow." And very few people in the class knew who he was,
and
which made me sad.
Yeah, but I've had a chance to talk to Barry a couple of times, and I think he would trade off. He would take that trade off for the fact that he still works.
Yes,
and
both of those brothers work all the time.
Yeah, Stan became. The last 10 or 15 years, he went into filmmaking, and he's got a couple of independent films that he's developing at the time. And as we mentioned before we started recording, he runs a wonderful program called The Actor's Journey, which is a 10-hour. It's a 10-hour course, which is available through his website. That walks people through the business of acting, everything you need to know once you finish acting school, which is
a lot.
It's a necessity. I'm glad he has taken the initiative to do something like this.
Yes, he feels a vital need, and of course Don Grady, before My Three Sons, was a Mouseketeer for a year.
and then he had a pretty successful recording career. As I recall.
we lost him recently.
We lost him within the last couple of years. Yeah.
I didn't. What I had lost my train of thought. I didn't know there was a son, an older son who got married and went away.
Well, yeah.
When I became aware of this show, it was what was it? Steve, Chip, and Ernie.
That's right. Yeah. Which is pretty much
Robbie, Chip, and Ernie. Yeah.
Robbie.
Right.
Okay.
Which is pretty much when I think of it in terms of the CBS shows.
Yeah.
Okay. And can I say something? This, I don't mean to sound negative. This was a show that I watched. Did I enjoy it? Kind of, sort of. But I watched it because it was the only thing on. The 3 stations, family viewing. And the reason I did not connect with it, it was my 3 sons. There was, a little girl. There was nothing for me to connect with on this show. So I felt, and I kind of resented it. I remember saying to my mother, where are the girls? And I met that not just on this show. Where are the girls on television?
Well, yeah. They weren't exactly the Cartwrights.
No, they were not. They were not exactly the Cartwrights, but
they didn't lose a girlfriend every other episode.
No, but although they did date. I mean,
they did. Yeah,
Sherry Alberoni from the Mouseketeers. She played one of, I think, Chip's girlfriends off and on over the years, and then eventually Chip got married, and I forget the name of his wife, but she was played by Ronnie Troop, Bobby Troop's daughter.
Ah.
And, of course, Robbie married Katie, who was played by Tina Cole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ernie dated a lot, but I don't remember who played his girlfriend.
I also remember Meredith McRae married Mike in that one, the episode.
Mike was Tim Considine's character.
Tim Considine's character.
Yeah.
I also had found,
another Walt Disney connection.
Yeah. I had also found, and Fred MacMurray was in Shaggy Dog and an Absent-Minded Professor, so Fred MacMurray also had worked with Disney a lot, too.
Yes.
I had found, and I had posted it, there is a 1965 CBS promo which opens in the wardrobe department at CBS, and they're fitting Fred MacMurray for a tuxedo. And he's telling the wardrobe guy, oh, yeah, well, we're going to start with the wedding. He said, oh, really? What's that? Well, my oldest Mike is going to get married, and he's going to move away. And I said, so it's not going to be my 3 sons? He said, no, we have a new son, Ernie. He's going to come live with us. And he said, so we'll still be my 3 sons. And then the wardrobe guy says, well, don't think of it as losing a son. Think of it as gaining a new network, because they had just moved to CBS. And then that kind of segues. And then Alan Hale and Bob Denver stumble in dressed as Gilligan and the Skipper, doing some of the shtick, and then trying to explain to the audience that they're not really, Alan Hale say he's not really as bumbling as Gilligan is. He's actually a very talented and very agile actor. And then they have a bit, with a hot iron, and then they show some wardrobe reps coming by, and it's all World War II uniforms, and they're talking about this new show called Hogan's Heroes. And then they said, let's show you a preview right now. And then most of it, the rest of that, is the pilot for Hogan's Heroes. And it was just kind of cool to see that type of in-house promotion.
The original pilot or the second pilot?
The original pilot.
Wow.
In black and white, the original pilot, which is The Informer, which looks like Stalag 17, which we talked about before. But, it's so amazing.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, but, thanks to Nick at Nite, I got to see some of the earlier black and white My 3 Sons. And I did see, they did an episode where they go to Ireland, and Grandpa, Bub. It was Bill.
Frawley.
Yeah, it was explained that Chip could not say Bill. They didn't call him Grandpa. He was always referred to as Bill, and Chip could not say Bill, and always came out Bub, and that's where the name came from. But Bill was enamored with Ireland, and when they came back home, he decided that he wanted to move to Ireland. And I guess he gets on a bus, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then
a bus to Ireland?
Basically a bus. Well, come on.
The bus
to leave Bryant Park to get, I guess, to New York to go there. And then when he's gone, that's his brother Charlie O'Casey comes knocking at the door, looking for his brother, and he said, "Oh, you just missing me, Winter." I mean, it wasn't the same episode, but it was, right after, and then he decides to stay.
That's how they explained the transition.
So he fills the void, and Chip is the youngest one here, and it's like Chip is taking the absence of his grandfather a little hard, that not having him, do the
Well,
stuff.
they were buddies in real life.
Yeah.
They were buddies in real life.
So really, it was because later on in the other episodes, Uncle Charlie has a special bond with Ernie.
Yeah.
But it was really Chip that convinced Uncle Charlie to stick around for a while. When of course he sticks around for forever.
7 years.
And then remember when they were in CBS in color, eventually they leave Bryant Park and move to California.
Los Angeles.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, but when they are going through a little, let's say, relocation remorse, which I thought was very good, the way that they did it, because there was some growing pains making the shift from one coast to the other. It wasn't an automatic upgrade. They had a house that looked very similar, with a very similar floor plan, but just simple things. They noticed that people were not as sociable, and Uncle Charlie could not get over the idea of pedestrians having the right of way and when crossing the street. But they eventually start to, there was some. I thought it was a nice episode, just kind of showing, okay, this is not necessarily an improvement. It's just different, and that's where Katie's introduced. So they finally start to make friends. They invite some people over to the house, and there's this pretty blonde girl that Robbie's looking at, and then all of a sudden he sees her in a wedding dress.
Yes.
And he goes up to Steve. I thought this was the only awkward part. He said, "So when you met our mother, there was, it's not, again, he's not Ben Cartwright, not Three Mothers." He said, "When you met our, how did you know?" And he said, I when I saw her, then I just saw a house, and that house eventually became our house." He said, "You'll know." And, he keeps and he is looking at her, just, at a little makeshift buffet, and she's putting food on a plate wearing a wedding dress. And, that was kind of the setup for it, the spoiler, and then, the rest of the show plays out.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
Hi, this is Dawn Lynn. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Join the My Three Sons sing-along.
Oh, my three sons, yes, my three sons. It's my three sons on Nick at Night.
Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen are with us as we take a look at the broadcast history of My Three Sons. My Three Sons, one of the few long-running network TV series that had long runs on two different networks. My Three Sons premiered September 29th, 1960, 65 years ago this week in TV history. This particular edition with Tony and Donna originally aired in October 2015. Tony?
Also, we have to point out, Fred MacMurray was still making movies. They shot many episodes.
Yes, it was called the Fred MacMurray contract, where whether it was 30 or 39 episodes per year, they would shoot all of MacMurray's scenes in like a 10-week period. That way, that would free MacMurray to pursue other projects like The Shaggy Dog or Flubber or whatnot. Because as Tony mentioned, he made a lot of movies during this time. So you had to make sure you had all of the scripts written before production began, which isn't always the way it's done in television. and you would block out all of MacMurray's scenes, and you would shoot them over the course of the next several weeks. And then when his obligation was done, you would film the rest. And you would have script supervisors taking photographs of scenes in progress so that you would match wardrobe, and you would have to match expression, and you would have to match this and match that. And so, but that was the only way to get Fred MacMurray to agree to do a weekly series in 1960.
And also, when there were the female reoccurring characters, they did not like that the hairstyles could never change.
Yeah.
They had to keep the same hairstyle throughout the season for the continuity purposes.
For the continuity purposes, you know.
And that could not be done today.
That
That would not be done
well,
today.
what would be done today is you would do it along the lines of what FX and HBO does. You would get you would get a Fred MacMurray to agree to do a 10 or 13 week season, which is more or less the same amount of work he would have been doing. It's a little more civilized, and it gives him the opportunity to do movies or plays or whatnot. When Brian Keith did Family Affair, which was also done by Don Feddersen, the Don Feddersen and Edmund Hartman, the two people who did My Three Sons. He also had the MacMurray contract, where he shot all of his scenes as Uncle Bill within a 6-week period, and then they would shoot. And then when he was gone, the rest of the cast members would fill in the remaining.
But you kind of saw in some of those episodes kind of like a Dick York thing towards the end. Breakfast, going to work, coming home from work at the end of the day.
Breakfast, business trip.
Yeah.
Coming home at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would see that. A lot of easy chair, newspaper, fireplace bits. Somebody running down the chairs, getting a little quick advice from Dad, and then going on.
Well, by the end of the show, where Robbie was married and Chip was married, you had more characters, and therefore there were more people who could carry plot lines, and so the need for Fred MacMurray was less, and you didn't have as many Steve-centric shows except for when he got married to Beverly Garland.
Yeah, there was a big shift.
Yeah.
And then you also had other adults to be anchor for the younger generation, which I think was, very important at that time from the network end, that you show that there would always be some adult role model to present the...
And didn't we lose a son? He went to Brazil on business and left poor Katie alone with those 3 babies?
Robbie did that because... and they had actually considered killing Robbie off. But Katie... because Robbie was working as an engineer and he got a job in Brazil, so he did leave towards the end and left Katie with the 3 babies. His 3 sons, the triplets, which were Robbie Jr., Steve Jr., and Charlie.
I forgot about the Brazilian plot line.
Yeah, because he wanted to leave to pursue. He was doing music-based projects, and they needed to justify his absence. And killing him off was a consideration at one point.
But you couldn't do
You
that
could
on
not
a
do
family
that.
comedy back then?
No.
Although the weird thing is that its final season, they moved it to Monday nights at 10:30.
Really?
That's a weird time slot for My Three
Was
Sons.
that trying to kill it?
My guess is yes. And that's
Because I don't even remember that.
No, it was a staple on Saturday nights for 5 or 6 years. But
On
then
both networks?
I don't remember I don't remember on ABC, but I know on CBS it was a Saturday night staple for years. And then the final year, it was around the time of the rural purge, but they moved it from Saturday night to Monday nights, 10 o'clock, which is 10 to 11 is not a time slot for a sitcom.
No, it's not.
But for the first 13 weeks of the 71-72 season, they put it on Mondays, 10 o'clock, and then mid-season they moved it to Thursdays, 8:30, which is a more family-friendly time slot. Because it's not like they're doing darker, adult-oriented themes. It was My Three Sons, but the target audience who would ordinarily watch it Now couldn't watch it because it was on 10 o'clock Monday nights. You
Yeah.
know, you had to go to bed. When it was on ABC, it was a staple Thursday. It was a Thursday night staple.
Okay.
In fact, when it first moved to CBS, it was on Thursdays, 8:30. So it ended its network run in its original time slot.
Interesting how it played out that way.
Yes.
You're going to enjoy Tony Figueroa's standalone podcast this week in TV history, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find audio. Tony's going to stick around for our next segment as we welcome back Joseph Doherty. Joe's going to lead a special roundtable conversation in which we take a look at some of our favorite local horror movie TV hosts from the 60s and 70s. All that more for this quick timeout here on TV Confidential.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.